So if you're someone that has a loved one who is suffering from night terrors and you want advice or want to know what to do in that situation where you wake up and you hear a primal scream, or you hear them jumping on the ground and about to run. So I'm here to give you advice. I'm someone who suffered from night terrors in my childhood and in my 20s and even in my early 30s. I suffered from them. Fortunately, I'm in my 50s and they've gone away, which you'll find is pretty common with night terrors. You know, there's multiple reasons why people have them, and sometimes people don't know why they have them. So if you have a spouse, if you have a child, that you wake up and you hear that, I'm here to give you the advice. In my situation, what would normally happen is during my dream, someone was chasing me, or a train was coming and I was about to get hit. And you'll find that you're like in REM sleep, where you're halfway awake, you're halfway asleep, and your surroundings in your room, like the bed or the walls, is part of your dream. So, or that you can't escape. And so even the sound of a voice or someone coming in and saying, you know, John, are you okay? That becomes part of your dream. And then you're trying to save your loved one from getting hit by the train or running away from the wolves. So they become part of your dream. And so I want to tell you what the number one thing to do for your loved one that's having the night terror, to immediately calm them down. And it was something that I eventually learned, and I would tell my parents or I would tell my spouse, hey, you need to do this when I have a night terror. So the first thing you want to do is you want to comfort them as far as making their environment safe. It's probably not best to try to wake them up, and you're just trying to make them as safe as possible, and they're usually not going to be attacking you. Don't try to wake them up. Just make sure their environment is safe. You know, when it comes to like a balcony or whatever, preferably you prepare before it happens, and they're not in a room or in a situation where they could fall off the balcony or fall down the steps, because that happened to me one time in a house where I was like in a loft, and I literally jumped from, it's probably like 10 feet, and this is when I was young, and I literally jumped from the loft all the way down to the ground, like thump. And my mom was like in the bedroom below, and she was terrified that I fell. Fortunately, I landed on my feet and I was okay. But you want to make sure the environment's safe. For me, food was a key trigger, and I noticed when I would eat like highly processed foods, you know, before bedtime, soda, all that stuff, caffeine, that would set me off to where I would have a night terror. So if you have a child, you know, try to tell them, hey, you don't need to be eating food beforehand with highly processed foods. So the number one thing that you need to do for your loved one is talk to them by their name. Let's say their name is John, and say, John, you are sleeping. John, you are having a nightmare. John, you're having a bad dream. And immediately it became reality, came into my dream, and then I started realizing immediately that I was having a night terror, and that would kind of cue me up. But if you go in there and then you're like panicking and saying it's okay, everything's going to be okay, that becomes part of the night terror. But if you calmly walk into the room or say, you're dreaming, John, you're dreaming, John, you're having another dream. As soon as you did that, when that happened to me, and I would coach them, it immediately woke me up, and I was like, oh, okay, and then I'd immediately go back to sleep. So that's what you need to do, is first say their name calmly, and then tell them that they're dreaming. And then that worked for the rest of my life. One unfortunate situation that I had during a night terror was in my early 20s, and I was visiting Japan with my sister-in-law and my brother. And in Japan, it's basically where you sleep on the floor on little futons. And I remember there was like a paper I don't know the name of it, but in Japan it's like a paper wall, like a lattice kind of thing. It was very, very fragile. And we were all three sleeping on the floor. And I woke up in the middle of my night terror, and I was still in the dream. It was dark. It was an unfamiliar room, and I remember just tearing in to that paper wall. And I remember hearing my brother screaming, like, "What's going on? Are you okay? Whatever." And they were trying to, like, basically console me and hold me, and it made it worse. And I remember I was dreaming that a train was coming that was going to hit us all, and I was trying to save them as well, because we were all going to get hit by the train. And I remember just destroying that paper wall. It was a sad situation, but fortunately no one got hurt. So anyways, I hope I gave you some good advice. If you want to put in the comment section what your situation is, if you have a loved one, a spouse, a child that's going through it, and then try this advice and then get back with me and put in the comment section how it's working. Alright, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe.